May 1945. Europe was finally at peace. Winston Churchill, the bulldog who defied Hitler, stood on a balcony overlooking cheering crowds on VE Day, the undisputed hero of a triumphant nation. Yet, just 11 weeks later, a seismic shockwave hit British politics. On July 26, the results of the general election were announced, and the unthinkable had happened. Churchill's Conservative Party had suffered a landslide defeat. The man who had rallied a nation through its darkest hour was out of power. How could a leader so revered, so synonymous with victory, fall so spectacularly? The most significant factor was simple: the war, at least in Europe, was over. Churchill was the indispensable war leader, his powerful rhetoric and unwavering resolve perfectly suited to the existential struggle against Nazism. But with victory secured, the public's priorities shifted dramatically. They no longer sought a wartime general, they craved solutions for peace. The bombed-out cities, the housing shortages, the rationing, the need for jobs, these were the new battlegrounds. The nation was exhausted and yearned for fundamental domestic change, a return to normalcy, and a better life after years of sacrifice. While Churchill looked back at the triumphs of war, Clement Attlee's Labour Party looked firmly forward. They offered a clear, comprehensive blueprint for a new Britain, a post-war welfare state. Labour promised universal healthcare through the National Health Service, better housing, full employment, and social security from cradle to grave. This vision resonated deeply with a population that had endured the hungry 30s and now expected a collective reward for their wartime collective effort. Attlee, often underestimated, presented a steady, reliable alternative, promising profound social reform and economic security. Churchill's campaign, surprisingly, proved disastrous. He failed to adapt his message from wartime urgency to peacetime aspirations. In a notorious radio broadcast, he warned that a Labour government would need some form of Gestapo to implement its socialist policies. This alarming comparison, meant to scare voters, backfired spectacularly. It not only offended many but also made him appear out of touch with the public's desire for unity and social progress. Instead of engaging with Labour's domestic proposals, he leaned on his wartime heroics, a strategy that increasingly felt irrelevant to the anxieties of rebuilding Britain. The composition of the electorate itself played a crucial role. Many voters, especially the millions of servicemen and women still overseas, were voting for the first time or had deferred their votes from before the war. These young men and women had fought for a better world and were less bound by traditional loyalties. Having witnessed the collective effort of war, they were receptive to Labour's vision of a society built on shared responsibility and equality. Their experiences fighting fascism had also instilled a desire for substantial social reform, making them less likely to accept the status quo. Despite Churchill's personal triumph during the war, the Conservative Party as a whole carried the burden of its pre-war record. Memories of the hungry 30s, characterized by high unemployment, poverty, and economic depression, were still fresh in many minds. Furthermore, the Conservatives were associated with the policy of appeasement towards Nazi Germany in the years leading up to the conflict, a policy that Churchill himself had vehemently opposed. While Churchill was an anomaly within his own party during the war, the general electorate remembered the party's perceived failures, making them wary of a return to pre-war policies. Churchill's defeat in 1945 wasn't a rejection of the man himself, but a powerful expression of democratic will. It was the British people, having faced down tyranny abroad, choosing to define their future at home. They wanted a different Britain, built on social justice and collective welfare, and Labour offered the clearest path forward. Though a personal blow, Churchill accepted the verdict with grace. He would return to power 8 years later, but the 1945 election stands as a pivotal moment, shaping the post-war landscape of Britain and demonstrating that even the greatest heroes must answer to the changing tides of a nation's aspirations.